So, in terms of funerary practices, the Plains people would let bodies decompose in a tree or scaffolding. They kind of let nature take its course, and then the bones would be buried in a rock outcropping or a rock structure. Prairie people, they were sedentary. They lived in the same town and permanent village with agriculture, so they had cemeteries. This should not be a shocker because this is how we operate. We live sedentary lives, and we usually bury people close to where our homes are, at least in the same kind of town. So again, you start to see a lot of patterns here where people tend to. There's not a whole lot of universals, but certain things do mean certain things, right? So if you live in a permanent village, you're more likely to have a political structure that has a chief, right? We've seen that even with California, even though they were kind of hunter-gatherers, they lived in the same place, which then they have a chief, even though they're hunter-gatherers, kind of a weird thing. So subsistence doesn't necessarily mean your power structure, your political structure. What it tends to look like is more about your movement. So if we move around to get food, we are typically a band level society that does not need a lot of power structure. We work together, cooperative. If we are in a village and we're at a permanent location, we tend to get division of labor, political structure, and we also tend to get things like cemeteries. California natives also buried their people not in random places, but in set locations. In my hometown up in Hollister, they found a cemetery that had 10 or 12 bodies in it or something like that. Again, this goes along with sedentary lifestyle, and there are certain things that happen. You also tend to have more conflict in those sedentary lifestyles because people tend to have power structure and political structure hierarchy of that power in place, which creates conflict. Remember, power over people creates conflict. Power to do or to achieve tends to not. So if we encourage, at a band level, if we encourage people to do kind of what they're good at in terms of their talents, we are basically encouraging people to have the power to achieve, and we're not trying to have the power over. When you have power over, you tend to get these conflicts, which would also include things like, hey, we don't like the neighboring group because we're better than them. We start to get ethnocentric ideas, in-group mentality. The calumet I already talked about in terms of the peace pipe, and tobacco was used. Sundance. The Sundance was very intricate. Renewal ceremony. It involved men and women, but mostly men. Self-sacrifice, and when we talk about self-sacrifice, it was symbolic good of the group and kind of keeping the world in order. Removing flesh or cutting flesh, but a lot of times it was piercing. So they would pierce places in the back, and then they would like tie skulls to it. They would pierce the chest, and it was all about ripping those piercings out and kind of going through that self-sacrifice piece. They would not have food or water, and bleeding would also ensue. This was supposed to lead to visions, and the scars. This is a prestige bestowment from this Sundance or ceremony. So what would happen is if you gained all of these scars from kind of these piercings being torn out, you were seen as kind of higher level, right? There was a prestige status and status kind of bestowed upon you in that process. All right, Plain Natives today. The population is growing because we have lower mortality rates, more kind of live births, longer lifespans, those kinds of things are happening. The Sioux Nation itself has 24 reservations. Standing Rock is something that has come up with the oil pipeline. If you guys didn't hear about it, you weren't watching the news, and I don't know, maybe you're like me, you don't have a TV, but hopefully you read about that whole kind of protest with the sacred land and the Sioux. If you haven't, you're going to want to go back and look at that. Remember, your book is older than that. This is very pertinent in the last couple of years, the whole Standing Rock issue. Lack of economic opportunity in the reservations is hard. Some groups are trying to bring back the bison to the area. Cattle grazing, grain growing is happening. Many individuals, though, are moving off the reservations in order to find work in the cities. So that's going to kind of deteriorate the traditional culture. Unemployment is high. Discrimination when people try to get jobs. They're discriminated against because they are of Native heritage. Alcoholism, suicide, and family violence are at epidemic levels. And we know, in terms of studying social groups and cultures, that when you have a group that has been decimated and kind of treated and ostracized and pushed out, these things tend to pop up. If you have people that don't feel like they have a sense of place or belonging or connection to their work or connection to their people, these incidences of alcohol, suicide, and family violence go up. And this is not just in Native American groups. This is in all American groups. If you're a part of this kind of structure of inequality and imbalance. You're going to want to, again, look at the Shawnee and the Pawnee on your own. And this is kind of, you're going to want to focus on the economic, cosmology, religion and medicine, material culture, socio-political organization, language, and life cycle. That is all for the week. So like I said, fairly short. I think it's about 2 hours total video time though. And then I've attached a reading for you guys as well. Remember, we only have a few weeks, basically a month left of school. You're going to want to really hone in on those research papers. The research papers are going to come due faster than you think. And a real tough part on the research papers, guys, is the theoretical orientation that you're going to try to be using. So first off, I recommend, you're in college, so I'm going to put that out there right now. I'm going to recommend you throw out a paper topic to me, and then a possible theoretical orientation. I can help you connect those dots. And I can also, again, I will respond to you via email whenever you'd like. In the next few weeks, I will also hold another Zoom conference meeting. The last one I held, I had 0 people show up. I think I had somebody mention that they would like to, but they had to go to school or something. Anyway, I will hold another one of those in the next couple weeks, and then if I get people tuning in, I can answer questions that way. It's probably the best way to go about it. But again, not to freak you out too much. I'm just hoping that you guys start to at least think about it. I am not going to sit here and say that I finished my research paper a month ahead of time in any class I ever did. Okay. However, thinking about it and having it in your head, what at least culture area you're going to look at and what theoretical orientation you want to use is a huge piece to writing that paper. So that would be the first step that I recommend. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you all had a great spring break. If you did something exciting and cultural or archaeological or Native American like, let me know. Please just share it with me on Canvas or email me, please, because I'm always thirsting after kind of that anthropological knowledge. All right? Again, I hope you guys have a great week.